Van life, remote work can be hard as F.
Yeah, we've been traveling around the world for years now as digital nomads, and we were not prepared for the unexpected struggles of how hard it would be working remotely from a van.
After many mistakes, we realized some things that makes our life way easier.
So whether you're a complete newbie beginner to van life or you're already working on the road and you're just struggling, these are things that all van life digital nomads should know.
This video is packed with gold nuggets, so grab a notebook.
Let's go! So everyone's at a different point in their van life journey, so we'll start out with the basics and then we'll move into the nitty-gritties. There's lots of things to remember in this video, so grab our free van life remote work checklist down in the description below, and let's start with number 1.
So number 1 to have success in remote work is to choose the right vehicle or build.
Yeah, when we were first choosing the van that we were going to live in, we watched tons of different YouTube videos and we saw other people who bought just small vans with no space really, and those vans, while they can be cheaper and they can work if you have no other options, if you have to work out of your bed every single day, it's going to get extremely uncomfortable and old really fast.
In many videos, people said they spend the time working in cafes, on restaurants, or places like that, but
it's really not that practical. For one, during the pandemic, everything is closed. Now things are finally starting to open up again, but you don't want to depend on being able to work and earn a living and then find out that everything is closed on the inside. And 2, if you do plan to work this way, you're going to be tied to the cities and you won't be able to go out and explore and camp and work from cool places like this.
so when you choose your vehicle, one of the first questions that you should ask yourself is whether I am going to work for a long periods of time in the van.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be super expensive either. We have an old 30-year-old camper van, and this nice workspace we have here is way better than what I've seen in some new camper vans that cost like $150,000. They just have tiny little uncomfortable workspaces. So it doesn't necessarily have to be complicated or expensive, but just keep that in mind and don't think that you can really skimp on it. If you find a good price on something else but it doesn't have a good workspace and you can't put in a good workspace, I would not choose that van if you're planning to work seriously in the van while you're traveling.
If you find a place but the place is not perfect to work, you can make it perfect.
For example, this seat right here is a little bit too far away from the table, but if Diane puts a pillow behind it or a pillow underneath her, it makes it perfect. You can also use different accessories like a laptop stand and Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, and that way you'll be in a better position and you won't be hunched down like this over your computer all the time. You can have better posture and it'll just be a way more comfortable experience.
Okay, next up for working remotely is the internet situation.
And we're gonna assume that you guys want to be out here in nature working in beautiful scenery and not stuck in a loud city in your van. And so to be able to do that and do it reliably, there are a couple of investments that you need to make. The first investment is kind of expensive, but we're going to share a way to save money in just a second, so bear with me.
So if you want to work in nature or outside of the city, the first thing that you need to invest in is in a cell booster.
This is called the Wii Boost, and it's a little bit pricey. There's an antenna that goes on the outside of the van, and this one I think costs $500. But if you think about it, if you're working and earning money from your computer, if this booster boosts the cell phone signal so that you can work in a place where normally you wouldn't be able to work, and you do that for a week or so, it's going to pay for itself.
Yes, there is a lot of times where we have arrived in amazing campsites, but we realize there is only one signal, and it's very weak. So we turn on the booster and
just like that, everything loads, YouTube loads, and all of a sudden you can get your work done. Now, it doesn't work in every single situation. First of all, you have to have a signal to boost in the first place. It's not gonna create a signal out of nowhere. And in some places, it just doesn't work as well as others. but there have been many different occasions where this has allowed us to work up in the mountains or way far away from cities where normally we wouldn't have been able to work.
If you're worried about the money, here's how you make it up.
So the second part of your internet plan is you need to have some kind of unlimited data plan that you can tether to your computers or tether to a hotspot which you use for your internet and your computers. And a lot of people use AT&T or Verizon, but those are super expensive services. They offer the best coverage. So compared to maybe T-Mobile and Sprint, at least at the time of this video, they don't offer coverage in as many areas. But Verizon and AT&T are super expensive, and we found another service is called Visible, and it uses Verizon's same network, and we get unlimited everything, internet calls, everything for $25 per person.
The normal price is $40 per month per person, but if you join a party plan, you could get a discount.
Yeah, they have this cool party plan promotion where you join a different group. You don't have to be related or anything. We even just went on Reddit and joined a group. They have a Reddit for that. And you can get your monthly price down to $25 per person.
So compared to Verizon, we save like $100 per month. So that allows us to buy the booster.
So guys, this is a super quick and brief overview of van life internet options, and we plan to do a more detailed video in the future. So if you'd like to see that, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when that video comes out.
So even if you have all the internet gear, you still need to find the perfect place to camp.
And really, this is one of the trickiest things to do as a digital nomad living in a van.
Luckily, technology has made this easier than ever.
There's a ton of different super useful apps that allow you to search for free camping sites and also paid camping sites. We usually stick to the free ones. And a lot of these have different comments or different sections in each camping site that says how the cell service is for different providers. But the problem is you have to depend on these comments, and that the person commenting mentions the internet situation and mentions the same provider that you have. And a lot of times there's just no information about the internet.
And the problem is that you drive for 2 hours or more, and then you get to a campsite where there is no signal at all, so you can't work.
But we found a pretty clever solution, and that is an application called OpenSignal. And with OpenSignal, you can just open it up, click on the map, and go to wherever location you're looking for, and you can set the settings to only show the signal for the provider that you have, and then you can compare that map to the map of the campground application and see if they match up and if there's signal in that spot. It's okay, you can edit it, right? You're an editing pro.
Another important, super important tip that you have to do anytime you get to a campsite is open up YouTube app
On your phone.
And watch a video so you can see if the internet is working or not, because a lot of times we get there, it says 3-4 bars and then nothing.
And then you get to a campsite and you're trusting in the bars, and you spend 30 minutes trying to get level, then you put on the solar panels, then you put out the awning and you get all set up, and then you get inside your camper and realize that the bars were lying to you and nothing loads at all. You just waste a ton of time driving to the campsite, setting up. Now you have to find a whole new one. So whenever you get somewhere, always open it up as you're driving around to see where the YouTube video loads and where it doesn't load.
We also recently learned that sometimes it just makes sense to pay for campsites.
For the past 6 months, we never ever wanted to pay for campsites. We always wanted to go the free route as much as possible because there's so many free areas. Why should we pay? But then the other day we realized, what's the point of driving an extra 45 minutes to get to this free spot that we don't even know if it's going to have internet or be level or be comfortable? Or we could just stay in this spot and pay $40 and have hookups to have air conditioning, have good internet, be level, have bathrooms, have everything. And while it can be more expensive,
you might save money on gas and time.
Yeah, you got to consider how much does it cost in gas to drive up that huge mountain and drive back down that huge mountain. It might cost similar to just paying for the campground.
Also, when you're looking through the apps for potential campsites, make sure to read all the comments to see if anyone mentioned how level it is.
Yeah, you guys would be surprised. If you're just going to sleep and then leave right away, maybe it doesn't matter so important if you're perfectly level. But if you plan to spend 3 days somewhere working 8 hours a day sitting like this, and you're sitting like this because the campsite's unlevel, that's going to be super uncomfortable and probably not worth going.
For example, right now, if your video looks weird for you, it's because we're so
twisted. Speaking of working comfortably, we also found some other pretty neat tricks to stay comfortable. But before we get into those, make sure to give us a like if you're enjoying this video. It helps us a lot. And now for those comfort tips.
The first is temperature.
Guys, if you plan to spend a lot of your time boondocking and in free campsites, extreme temperatures are generally not your friend. Because if you're in extreme cold, it's not going to be fun working with all bundled up, frigid, you can't even move your fingers. And if you're in extreme hot, you're just going to be miserable, sweating at your desk all the time because you can't hook in to power your air conditioner or anything like that.
I'm too hot. Taking a shower.
How do you like van life?
I hate it.
And so when you're looking for campsites, one trick to find comfortable temperatures is to use this handy app. It's called Windy, and you can change the map so it shows different colors on the map depending on what temperature is at different times of the day. And so right now, for example, in the middle of summer when it's super hot, I can search and see what areas of the map are less hot because it's not so red on the map at the hottest parts of the day. And then based on those small zones, I can look in Campendium or iOverlander or those campground apps and find spots that are within those zones that aren't super red.
So we like to look for zones that looks a little bit yellow or green in the middle of the day. That's why we drove a lot.
All the way from the heat box of California all the way over to the mountains of Colorado because it's way more comfortable here.
But obviously, if you want to pay for campsites every single night, that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, you can just hook up, and if you have air conditioning, hook up and turn on your air. Or if you have a generator, you could also use your air in hot areas. But you might annoy other people around you.
Everyone is going to hate you. Another tip to stay comfortable if you're in heat places is to build all your box screens on your doors or your windows. We also made a tutorial about it, so if you want to watch it,
check it out.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, we made these screens in probably less than 30 minutes, and it makes it so you have really great airflow and the bugs can't get into this summer. Alright guys, I know this is a lot to think about so far, but I promise it's not as hard as you think, especially if you pick up that checklist I was talking about in the description. But there's a couple more things you want to think about if you really want to work comfortably working remotely from your van.
A couple or 1,000 things. The last thing you need to think about when you choose a place for work is a long-term potential.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to drive all the way out far away to get to somewhere and it's some place where you can only stay for a couple days and then have to leave again. So in addition to all the things we've already talked about, it having internet, it being level, it being the right temperature, you also want to consider, is there a water source nearby, like a river or a lake, that you could take showers in so you don't waste all the water that you have with you?
If you're gonna use your drinking water for showers, of course that's not gonna last very long, so you have to move very fast. But maybe you don't take a shower, so you don't need water.
You also have to think about your batteries. How are you going to keep your laptops charged so you can keep working? If you have solar on your roof, or like us, we have a nice portable solar panel that we can put on the outside. You need a place where it's sunny, where it's not covered in shade, otherwise your batteries are going to die. If you have a generator, obviously this is less of a problem, but you need to carry gas along with you to power your generator.
Another thing to think about, guys, when you find this place is you need to make sure that you are close to supplies, because all fridges are very small. So you need to buy food, you need to dump out your trash.
Trash can build up super fast. One time we found an awesome place with perfect internet. There was nobody else there. We were up on the top of a mountain with 360 views of mountains all around us, and our van just filled up with trash. We ran out of water, and it was a super sketchy road to get up to this place, and it takes a long time. And so even though we loved it so much, after we filled up with trash, we had to leave, and we ended up not going back because it was just too hard to get to.
So whatever you do, just make sure to dump all of your trash before you go anywhere else, and fill all your water jugs.
Get tons of food. You want to do all of this before you start on a working spree, because you don't want to be interrupted and only be able to stay one day in a place and then have to go restock and go back. You need to really be productive if you want to be successful working from a van. Speaking of which, I made a whole nother video on awesome productivity hacks for digital nomads. Make sure to check that one out as well. It'll help you a ton in van life as well.
But what happens if you can't find anything while you're traveling?
And this actually happens a lot. There's some stretches where you just can't find a good place to camp that meets all of those criteria, or even some of those criteria. And in those cases, you might have to go into town to work, and then at night you can leave and find a camp spot. Maybe it doesn't have internet, or if the town has places to sleep, you could also sleep in a Walmart or places like that. But we prefer sleeping outside if possible.
If you need to work in town and there is no restrictions, you could find McDonald's, Starbucks, so those kind of places to work. But of February so far, it's been libraries.
Libraries are the bomb, and that's because even in small, tiny little towns that don't have a McDonald's or a Starbucks or cafes, there's usually a small library in there, and they usually have nice desks to work. They usually have fast, free Wi-Fi. You don't have to buy things when you're there, so you don't feel weird sitting all day working. And so we highly recommend, if as a last resort, if you can't find any cool places to camp, just camp near a small town, even if there's no internet or anything, and then just drive into town and work at the library on your work days, and there you go.
Guys, if you like this trick so far, make sure to subscribe to our channel. That's gonna help us a lot. Okay, next up is schedule planning, and this is super important.
For some people, this may seem obvious, but for us, it took a long time to finally figure it out. And that is, it's really hard if you're trying to mix van life, traveling and exploring new places, and working at the same time on the same days. And so if you try to mix everything together, it gets complicated. Now you see all the things that you have to do to find a good place to work, and so imagine having to do that all the time, every other day or every day. So the trick is to batch it into chunks. So you have a few days going out exploring, going on hikes, doing whatever you like to do, and then you have a few days where you're 100% focused on work. You have a good, comfortable spot to work, you have all your supplies, and so you can just knock it out and then go back to exploring and then go back to working, and just batch it like that.
Okay guys, so the trick here is just to find jobs that gives you the flexibility to do this.
Fortunately, we have a super detailed video on some awesome van life jobs you can do, so you can check that one out next. I'm sure you'll find an idea that you haven't thought of before. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.